If air travel is supposed to be ruthlessly commercial, why do so many governments behave like sentimental frequent flyers when it comes to their airlines? Why does a country that would happily privatize steel mills, telecom towers, and post offices still rush to rescue a struggling flag carrier? The answer is a mix of economics, law, soft power, and a dash of national ego. Airlines, it turns out, aren't just companies, they're flying passports with engines, from Chicago to the age of open skies. Modern aviation was built on sovereignty. The 1944 Chicago Convention set the rules for civil air transport and made clear that each country controls who flies in its airspace and who represents it internationally. That led to bilateral air service agreements, carefully negotiated treaties that still shape routes and frequencies. This system allowed nations to crown a designated carrier, and once you have a chosen airline wearing your colors, politics follows. The legal skeleton remains to this day. The United States requires its international airlines to be under U.S. control with no more than 25% foreign voting ownership. The European Union allows up to 49%, but insists control stay European. Australia's Qantas even has special caps. When the rules are designed to keep airlines national, governments inevitably stay involved when trouble hits. Connectivity as a national asset. There's also a cold economic case behind the romance. Airlines create connectivity that drives trade, tourism, and productivity. The International Air Transport Association and the Air Transport Action Group estimate that aviation supports roughly 3.9% of global GDP and a third of world trade by value. Cities with strong air links attract more investment and talent. Governments know that if a home airline fails, some long-haul routes might vanish because no foreign carrier finds them profitable. That risk keeps finance ministers awake at night. Connectivity can mean foreign direct investment and hundreds of thousands of jobs. International Air Transport Association 2025 Industry Outlook is instructive. The sector is back in the black after the pandemic, but margins are wafer thin. Net profit forecasted about 3.7%. Real average return fares are about 40% lower than in 2014. Great news for travelers, but less so for investors. When an airline serving your export hubs and tourist gateways wobbles, it is politically easier to write a rescue check than to watch connectivity erode. Protection by policy. Beyond ownership limits, governments tip the scales through regulation. The U.S. Fly America Act requires that flights paid with federal funds, think government business trips, aid programs, or research grants, use U.S. flag carriers if available. Even when a foreign airline operates the flight, a U.S. code share can keep the booking American on paper. The result is a steady revenue stream protected from foreign competition. On the other end of the spectrum are open skies agreements, which dismantle many limits on routes and pricing to encourage competition. The United States has dozens, including with the EU, Japan, and Australia. Yet even in open skies land, nationalism pops up fast. In the 2010s, U.S. majors accused Gulf carriers, Emirates, Qatar Airways, and Etihad of taking $40 billion plus in subsidies, arguing that distorted competition. Diplomatic wrangling led to 2018 pledges from Qatar and the UAE to be more financially transparent. Liberalization is real, but when perceived unfairness collides with national interest, protectionist reflexes kick in. Bailouts, pride meets the price tag. Every aviation crisis shows how far states will go. COVID-19 brought the most visible wave of rescues in decades. Germany approved a €6 billion recapitalization of Lufthansa under EU state aid rules. France and the Netherlands poured about €10.4 billion into Air France-KLM. Switzerland, scarred by Swissair's 2001 collapse, helped create a leaner Swiss International Airlines, later folded into Lufthansa. Italy's Alitalia saga ended with a state-backed successor, ITA Airways, partially sold to Lufthansa in 2024 to 2025, with EU antitrust approval after remedies. South African Airways lingered in business rescue for years. A planned sale to the Takatso Consortium collapsed in March 2024, forcing the government to rethink funding but still keeping a golden share idea alive. These moves aren't cheap, but the politics are irresistible. No minister wants to explain why citizens stranded abroad can't get home, or why the national color disappeared from airport tails. Riyadh Air and strategic ambition. Some nations don't just save old carriers, they launch new ones. Saudi Arabia is investing billions in Riyadh Air, a sleek new full-service airline meant to turn its capital into a global hub. The Public Investment Fund placed massive Boeing 787 orders and, in late 2024, another 60 Airbus A321 family jets. It's part of the Vision 2030 plan to diversify the economy and attract 100 million tourists. In this case, protectionism isn't about nostalgia. It's about building influence and economic diversification from scratch. India, balancing legacy and market reality. India's story blends nostalgia with market pragmatism. Air India, once the Maharaja of the skies, returned to private hands when the Tata Group took control in 2022. Tata is merging full-service Vistara into Air India, creating a stronger global player, while Indigo, completely private and low-cost, has grown to dominate more than 60% of the domestic market. The government no longer bankrolls a flag carrier but still sees value in having a competitive Indian long-haul player under local ownership. The market shows that national pride alone doesn't win. Passengers pick price and punctuality. The soft power of tail fins. Protecting a carrier isn't just economics. A tail fin is a moving billboard. When Japan Airlines taxis past the windows at JFK or Air France glides into Nairobi, it's subtle cultural diplomacy. Airlines shape first impressions through cabin design, language, food, and service rituals. They also provide strategic lift in emergencies, from evacuations to medical aid flights. Governments like having a carrier they can nudge in crises. Politically, airlines are visible employers and cultural icons. Rescuing them plays well on the evening news. Scholars analyzing pandemic responses noted that maintaining air connectivity to preserve jobs and investment was a priority for nearly every government that intervened. Liberalization's tug of war. Despite decades of market opening, aviation remains a patchwork of protection. Open skies boosted competition, but foreign ownership caps and state aid carve-outs endured. The European Union polices bailouts but repeatedly approved exceptional support in 2020 to 2021 to avoid massive job losses. The United States fiercely protects its 25% foreign cap, even as some economists argue for liberalization to attract capital. It's an uneasy balance. Airlines ask governments to deregulate so they can expand globally, but when crises hit, they quickly seek state help. In a sense, aviation is the teenager of industries, desperate for independence until the credit card bill comes, when protection pays and when it fails. Rescuing or shielding a carrier can work if the airline reforms and uses support to modernize fleets, trim costs, and join global alliances. Lufthansa emerged leaner after its 2020 recapitalization and repaid state stakes. Swiss thrived once integrated into Lufthansa's network. ITA Airways' partial sale to Lufthansa may finally give Italy a sustainable flag. But protection fails when politics prevents tough choices. South African Airways absorbed bailouts without fixing structural issues and still struggles for sustainable funding. Alitalia spent years as a money pit because governments were reluctant to confront unprofitable routes and labor rigidities. National pride alone can't overcome bad economics. More flags, more nuance. The next decade will likely bring hybrids rather than pure state airlines or pure free markets. Governments may keep golden shares or minority stakes to influence strategy while inviting private capital and partners. Joint ventures will blur nationality. ITA in Lufthansa's group, Air India with Singapore Airlines backing, Gulf carriers investing abroad. New national champions such as Riyadh Air will rise, while old ones adapt or merge. Travelers will still enjoy historically low real fares, thanks to competition and efficiency, even as airlines hunt for sustainable margins. But don't expect to see a fully globalized free-for-all in ownership anytime soon. Airspace sovereignty remains deeply political. As long as borders exist, countries will want a say in who wears their flag at 35,000 feet. And that's our deep dive into why countries love their flag carriers, even when it costs a fortune to keep them flying. If you enjoyed this video, then hit that like button. Got thoughts on your country's national airline? Have a favorite flag carrier story or a rant about bailouts? Drop it in the comments, we'd love to hear it.